Well, I'm in my basement workshop. I have a whole bunch of preforms made for sphere making. Cut these out on my 18-inch HP and my 30-inch Covington out in the garage. So basically you make a nice polygonal shape with your saw using a jig that I'd purchased. And then the next step is going to be grinding off all of these points on the grinder. I've got a worn out wheel, so this wheel is due to be replaced soon. So this process is taking me a lot longer. Basically my grit is on the edges is all I have left. The middle is not doing too much for me. So I'm going to try and get one sphere preform made today. So that's kind of a neat piece. We'll see what it looks like when it gets all polished up. We'll grind away on this a little bit. Everybody enjoys that, I suppose. A couple things that are very important: a pair of safety glasses and hearing protection. So I'm going to put those on. That's as fast as that goes. It's not a fast process. This is going to take a long time to get this ready to go in the sphere machine. But basically that's all I'm doing is running it on my 8-inch 80 grit wheel. I'll just give one word of caution when you're grinding a rock down, trying to get that rough round shape. Any little bit you grind too deep, your sphere is going to end up that much smaller. So be very careful while you're grinding so you don't lessen the size of the end product. So take your corners off, get it as round as possible, but if you dig in a little bit, you make a gouge, your rock will have to get that much smaller to be finished. So be careful about that. After you're getting close to where you want to be, your hands are your best device for feeling where the high spots are. As fast as you burn a little. Alright, there you have it. There's our preformed sphere. The next step is going to be the sphere machine itself. So we'll move over and set that up. Well, first off, a little description of the sphere machine. There are 3 electric motors, direct drive to a grinding cup. This is just a cast iron plumbing fitting, and this surface of it has been ground to a certain angle, and then on that we've added this. This is diamond embedded brazing rod. So using the typical brazing method, you apply the diamond embedded brazing rod onto the surface of the pipe, and that's what gives you your cutting edge. This particular set of cups are 50 to 60 grit, so it's rather coarse. You can get it in some other grits. It's pretty tough to find, but I did find a supplier who has some, and I got a few sticks left from them, so I'll show you how to assemble the machine. These springs, well, it's 2 springs, but it acts as 3, puts an even pressure on the stone in the middle, and as these turn, these grinding surfaces are just going to wear away at the stone. I have a water feed right here. I've just got a tank of water up above here. Sorry about that. So I got a tank of water, and then there's just a tube running from the bottom of it. I do have a shut-off valve. It's real cheap and inexpensive to get, and it goes down to that device, which you can get at a gardening supply store. So that's how I regulate the water feed. It doesn't take a lot of water, but you do have to keep it somewhat clean. Now, anytime you start a new stone, there's a chance it could pop out of the machine. That's always a danger and something we don't like to have happen. So you do have to babysit the thing for a while. I've added these bungee cords around here. They just tend to give it a little more stability. Excuse me, I'll hook that up. So I've got bungee cords. There's a lower bungee cord. They're not on here very tight. The springs are really what get the action, but these bungee cords just help keep it from wobbling so much. All right, let's turn it on and see what happens. So what you ultimately want is kind of a random turning of this stone, and right now this one's kind of sticking a little bit. I don't want that to happen. You want the stone to move in all sorts of odd directions. That's your best bet. You never want to get it caught in any one spot, otherwise it'll spin, and these grinding cups will just wear into it and give you a horrible shape. Then you have to make your stone smaller. We'll let that go for a while. I can adjust the tension by moving these in or out. You can't really make one cup grind more, but you can change the overall tension on the machine. This is a fairly soft stone. It's going to grind rather quickly, I think. So I'm going to get more water on there to wash away the ground up rock. There you can see it wants to set one spot. And that's what it's grinding off right now. That's all rock material. This is grinding pretty quick. It seems to have enough action, so the stone's moving around a bunch. Might be a little difficult to see, but there's some shiny spots on here, and this is the original saw marks when I first cut this down. So I did do a very good job on the grinding machine here, but I can tell by looking at this spot here, when that goes away, then that is round. And there's more spots like that. So as I see some shiny spots, these grinding wheels, which are 50 or 60 grit, are not hitting them. There's another one right here. And once this texture is the same, I'm pretty well guaranteed that this is a round sphere. There we go again. It is a fairly rough texture, but again, I'm doing this with a 50 to 60 grit diamond. But it's randomly moving around, it's not just spinning in one direction, and spinning in one direction is the worst thing you can have happen, I suppose. Short of the stone falling out, which I've had happen too. That's quite a clunky affair when you lose the rock. From the same supplier that I got the brazing rod from, I picked up my first set of grinding cups. These are 1.5 inch pipe. The ones on the machine now are 2 inch. I made those myself with a little help from a friend for the brazing. But these are 1.5 inch, and you can see this is all diamond embedded brazing rod there. I've also made a set of 1 inch. So we got the 1 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inch. My next set, I'm going to make one in between here. I'm going to make 1.25 inch, and then one larger than that, maybe a 2.5 inch. But I may need to upsize the motors for that, because that's going to be heavy-duty grinding. Well, we're getting very close. There is still a few spots. The spot here, that is a little low. One there. Yeah, that one's almost perfect. So we'll keep that going. Well, it looks pretty good. We're going to do a final inspection. Simply release the springs. One spring anyway. I'll shut the water drip off. Those can sit there. There's a couple little marks in it, but those are just going to happen. I'm not going to worry about that. If this isn't 100% smooth, that's okay. It's a rock after all. I think we're ready to start polishing. That'll be the next step. I've washed the rock off after running it through the grinder, and it's not completely dry, but it's fairly dry, so I can get a much better look at what's going on. Now I've got a decision to make. I could go with, well, these are the next step. These are polishing pads, and I've custom fit them and adhered them to these cups, which I've actually had to run on my lathe out in the garage. And you have to decide what size I'm going to use. These are the 1.5 inch, and that would probably work fine. But I think I can stick with the 2-inch stuff on this one. They seem to sit in there really good. The more contact surface area you have from the pad to the stone, the better off you are. Because the motors are certainly strong enough to handle that. So I'm going to switch. I'm going to go from my 50 grit, 50 to 60 grit, and then I'm going to put on a series of 3 100 grit polishing pads. That's the next step. Set the springs. And I keep the tension even. I can count the number of chain links. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Move that one out to 8 to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And move that one to 8. I'm going to reattach the top bungee. Turn on the water. Want to get those wet right away. Dry polishing of rocks is a very dangerous thing. It's very, very dangerous on your lungs. Let's see how that sits in there. It does seem to be grabbing and spinning in one direction, so I'll watch that for a few minutes. And then typically what I do, I take my old phone out with a timer on it, set it for however much time I think, in this case 20 minutes, hit start, and that'll alert me when my 20 minutes is up, and then I'll come and change to the next pad. But looking at the at what's coming off of there, waiting for a grip, that 100 grit pad I put on, you can see a lot of material there. It's cutting that down pretty fast, so I may not go the 20 minutes, maybe just 10. I think we did pretty good on the 100 grit. Now, my complement of 2-inch cups, I don't have all of the grits I'd like. So my next step, I'm skipping 200 because I don't have any yet, and I'm going to go to 300. But I think this stone is going to work really well. So again, you just got to loosen it up, take your stone out, and this has got to be washed clean because I don't want any grit or tougher, bigger particles contaminating that 300 grit from the 100 grit. So I'll wash that. 100 are off. I've rinsed them. It's important to just give them a quick rinse. Make sure they dry thoroughly. I don't want the cups rusting. Haven't really added anything to them to keep them from rusting. So now I've got the 300 grit. Going to place the rock back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I went 8 on the last one, so it worked out well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I'll leave that top bungee off. Doesn't seem to be too necessary, but I've washed the rock, I've washed the old cups. The new cups are on. Here we go for maybe another 10 minutes. We'll see. If you see as these are going around, Probably made these a little bit too big for the cups, so if I make another set, I'm going to shrink it down a little bit so they fit a little better. It's a work in progress. I bought the machine used, found it on Craigslist, drove 75 miles to get it. It sat in my basement for a couple of years before I got to using it. I'll go a little more on the water feed here. Took another year to get some courage up to try it, and then took a good part of a year before I started making the polishing pads and getting this thing dialed in. But now it's working wonderfly. You can do the same. I'm going to build 2 more of these. I've got 6 more. Actually, I've got I think 8 more of these motors. These are very hard to come by. These are off of old Xerox copying machines, but they're about 105.7 RPMs, I believe, 110 motors. They're built on a couple things. There's just a house hinge here that's bolted down and welded onto this steel plate, so that allows this to move in and out. It can move on the hinge, and this also can slide back and forth. So if I have a bigger stone, I can move back here. If I have a smaller stone, simply by loosening these nuts, I can slide this whole thing forward. What you're actually after is to have your cups on a plane, or even slope down a little bit to help with the water runoff so it doesn't go back into the cups. Not a big deal, but somewhere on a level plane or up or down, doesn't matter. It can even be down a little. The stone isn't going to fall out if you have the right size cups. So we'll let this go for 10 minutes. Come back and probably change that out. Well, as promised, the clock is going to go off and tell me when my 10 minutes is up. Simple. That seems to be doing a fantastic job on there. Alright, we'll swap these out and go to the next one. I won't bother you with showing the whole swap process, but again, it's simple. Take your stone out. Kind of a neat pattern. I'll wash that up. And then I'll have to rinse these off. You don't want to leave them with all this grit on here. That's got to go away. So I'll take care of that. It's simple water wash and air dry. Alright, I've washed this after the 300 grit. It feels a lot smoother. The water really makes it, you can see what it's going to be like, but it needs a lot more polishing yet. So we're going to 500 grit now. Alright, they're set. The water's flowing. There's a little roughness to it. I'm going to attach this last bungee cord, hopefully help some of that out. Excuse me. Just needed to pull this one in line. It was just wobbling a little. So Already I can see the grit on there. Now the rock was washed, the pads were clean. Increase the flow a little more. Alright, and restart the clock for 10 minutes, and that'll be it for that one. There's one interesting thing you can find as you're polishing. You can see the contact area right here where it's clean. Out here it's a little dirtier, so this area is not contacting. And some of these little pads, now these are a little lower than that, doesn't contact, but the corner of this one is. So you can check your contact area of the pads to the rock. Just interesting. Alright. The last one was 2,000. Now we're going to 3,000. Another 10 minutes there and we'll be golden. Alright, there's the end of the 3,000 grit. Got a nice shine on there. Of course it is wet. We have the polish to go yet. That's about a 10,000 grit. So we'll change into that here. And again, I'm going to have to wash the rocks. I don't want to contaminate anything. So I'll go wash that in a few minutes. Grit. Once again, the water's going. I washed and cleaned the rock, the sphere. It's looking pretty good. It's not quite dry, but it's getting that nice shine we're looking for. I'm going to let this buff go for maybe about 15 minutes. And then, meanwhile, I'll clean up the rest of my stuff. So here we go, another 15 minutes, and we're going to have a sphere. Alright, the alarm's gone off for the final time. I think we're done with the water, done with the polishing. We now have a finished sphere. Take a little look at it. All sides. It is beautiful. It's very difficult to pick up on the camera, but in a lot of these spots there's little teeny flecks of copper showing. So hopefully they'll stay that color. There's an old fracture that is healed, another one. There's a nice little bit of copper there, just above that little dark spot. So there we are. A sphere in about 50 easy steps. Well, there's the wastewater. There's a lot of rock sediment in there. That is not something you should ever put down the drain unless you want to get a plumber over or handy at clogging frozen up concrete out of your drains. So definitely never put that down the drain. You can put it outside anywhere you like, just not in the plumbing. Now, here's the setup I have for all the 1.5" spheres. You can see it takes quite a few of them from the grinding cups. We have 50, 100, 200, 300, 500, 700, 1,000, 1,500 grit, 2,000, 3,000 buff, and I think I have another one in there. So that's what it takes to properly have a set of sphere polishing cups.